Poor State, coming in from Korea. All they wanted was some good Mexican food. And we get this... So, I'll introduce the players first. And then story time. Our in Taito Citadel, top left, Clem, bottom right, MaxPax. And telling a story about hanging out with Roddy in Las Vegas. But first, story about the Safe House crew. Yeah, Wednesday night, we're like, what should we get to eat? And State's like, Mexican. So we're like, okay, no worries. And I look on Uber Eats, and there's a 4.6 Mexican joint. And it's like, great, we'll get this. This looks fine. It's called Roberto's. And we order it. It comes in like 30 minutes, whatever. It's already a little sus on how they packaged it, but we open everything up, and then it was super sus. I mean, this was the worst looking food that I've gotten in a long time. I can't remember the last time anything has like looked this bad or tasted so flavorless. But like I got tacos, right? I got tacos. And the beef tacos, like carne asada. And it was gray. I mean, it was so gray. It was very clearly like reheated without any seasoning. Completely seasoningless. Like no salt type of no seasoning, okay? No salt, no pepper, no chili powder, no cilantro, no, like nothing on it. The tortilla clearly reheated. Soon as you just like, pressed it to pick it up, it just tore apart. State's burrito or something that he got was like a similar situation. Just gray meat that was reheated, flavorless, disgusting. And the way that he put it was, this is what I think food poisoning looks like before you get it. The good news is no one got food poisoning. The bad news is State had took one bite and didn't eat anything else. And I took like 3 or 4 bites and didn't eat anything else. I think Steadfast had like a little bit more. And then like Chicken Man actually liked his, to be fair. But his was like a fried gordita or something. But the rest of the food was just so bad. So when I think it was Zergirl who was like, we can go to this taco place that everyone recommends. We were like, But that actually ended up being really quite good. It was this really just crowded place, I guess, on the Las Vegas Strip that everyone goes to when they're hungover. But this was dinner time, so everyone still goes for regular dinner time as well. And you had to stand in a line. There was like 6 different stations. Like one had fries, one had pork stuff, one had beef stuff. One had like a bunch of like less popular tacos, like cow brains taco, which I've never tried. And took a while, but when we finally got our tacos, they were quite good and cheap and all that you would like from tacos. So that had a happy ending. Talked a lot about tacos, but now we're talking about the game. TvP, Clem vs. MaxPax. Clearly 2 players very familiar with each other. This Reaper, once again, in and see if it's going to be a 4-gate, which Clem, or MaxPax does bring out every now and again. Unfortunately, is going to die long before we get confirmation on that. So far to seeing the 3 gates, which I guess, really he did get enough confirmation. Thanks. It's rare you ever get to really get in every nook and cranny to see the true amount of gateways, but Clem did. Also, while handling the Adepts almost flawlessly by the looks of things, hasn't lost an SCV, finally loses that Hellion, but he killed 2 Adepts, killed 4 probes, and again, got that full scout to determine that it is a 3-gate, not a 4-gate. Kazansky, thank you for the tier 1 sub. Wouldn't Mind Drop is on the way too, which usually would also try and be some type of scout, but in this case, not necessary. MaxPax does go for a 3rd Nexus. Is he still going to grab that Warp Prism? That's what he typically does. He's actually going for an Observer, but he's a little supply block, so a little off his game right now. Jesus Christ, that almost hit big. A little off his game, I gotta say. The opener not working out as well for him as he also misses grabbing the medevac. Oh no, that was 100 supposed to die. I might still die. There it goes. Okay, well, that's good news for him, is that he finally gets a medevac. Clears out the Widow Mines without terrible, terrible damage being done. And he actually does go into charge very quickly. But we'll see if he goes into Storm or Colossus. Need to come to Mexico and taste real tacos. I've had less interest visiting Central or South America than any other continent. But lately I've been more and more convinced to try it out. So it's a maybe. Maybe one day I'll get to Mexico. This Raven went down the wrong alleyway and nearly got shanked for it. Just a light shanking this time. Still lives, though. Looks like MaxPax was trying to get up on that high grounds, but Clem was one step ahead of him, had units already prepared on the ramp, not letting him get anywhere close to the actual ledge, in which case he still had units there as well. Because, at this point he's identified it's not going to be a big attack, no Warp Prism, no severe number of Stalkers. He could split his army like that. Third CC is on the way. Now the 4th and 5th barracks. Stim starts up very late. Oh, that's what happened. Okay, so Stalkers went in, canceled Stim, had to rebuild it, and then he had units catching them as they retreated. That's what happened. So I was going to say, kind of a bold move just to have your units out waiting for that, but that makes more sense. Still, the delay on the Stim, not game ending for sure, but 30-second delay. Raven comes back home just to sheepishly ask to be repaired before going back out again. You did nothing. Robo Bay is on the way, so it is going to be Colossus, the old standard. As far as the patch, I feel like personally I haven't seen that much out of the patch. It wasn't a subtle patch, but it wasn't a patch that just like hammered you over the head with changes either. Somewhere in between, I suppose. But I do feel like as far as the PVT effect, if it has affected it, it is subtle so far. Maybe Terrans are feeling a better time getting to 3 to 4 bases, for instance, a better time getting into some mid-game scuffles rather than feeling kind of powerless once those 3 Colossus are out and they're being bullied on their 3 bases. Hard to say. To me, it hasn't really made those it hasn't reverted back to the old pacing of PVT, which, to be fair, before PVT was Protoss favored, it was Terran favored, so there's that. But I did like the pacing of that a bit more, which is that the Terran initiated first with 2 medevac push out. Maybe the Protoss couldn't hold back when it was like Interference Matrix was free and instant. But after that, they held for the most part. Then it was just relentless aggression from the Terran trying to exploit the weakness of a limited supply of the Protoss, keeping them suppressed on 3, maybe 4 bases. Action. Whereas when Protoss was better, and maybe is still better, kind of felt like Terrans, there's at some point was like, well, I guess we just don't move out. And we just do, well, exactly what Clem's doing, to be honest. Even going up to 5 tanks right now, so very defensive. And then the Protoss goes, oh, that's what you're doing, and then grabs 5, 6, 7 bases. The battles are still fun when they actually start to attack each other, but it's less about the Terrans moving and grooving and more about the Protoss, which, I guess I'm biased, but I don't think it's as fun. Second Robo on the way, double upgrades for the Protoss 2. MaxPax comfortably on 4 bases, moving on to that 5th. And again, a 6th, probably very quickly too. And Clem is, he's trying to go for this late game composition, which is very powerful. MaxPax decides to engage, but that is a wide arc of Terran units. Properly protected by at least 3 tanks, almost any angle that you take. Yeah, 3 tanks at least. And so I don't think you're breaking that too easily. It just isn't the most fun, I think, watching StarCraft 2 when it comes down to this. The Terran choosing a lot of the games to be completely defensive. No one likes turtle games. That's very true. And while I don't necessarily call this a true turtle game, I mean, this isn't mech behind 5 planetaries and 20 missile turrets and stuff, but it is very defensive. If the Protoss tries to go for multi-pronged attacks, tries to break open the I was gonna say Metapod. There's some Pokemon representatives in here. Can be fun. But then Protoss, you know, they do have a little bit of a pickle of their own, I suppose, which is that say the Terran doesn't do any move outs, say the Terran does do what Clem does and is perfectly situated on 4 bases, plenty of army to use, difficult to break offensively. Does the Protoss try and just go for the run-bys and the multi-pronged attempts and the Zerg style of aggression into remaxing? Nice snipe on 2 Medivacs there. Or they go right into those Stargates. Right now, MaxPax clearly emphasizing the attacking portion of this. Finds a little bit of an undefended third, but moving up this choke, up this ramp, into what is still definitely an army somewhere. Yeah, not so appealing. Anyway, if they go into the Stargates, MaxPax feels like he can't break the guy. It's like, okay, I have a little Tempest to break him instead. It doesn't feel that great for Protoss to do. Relentless aggression might not work out either. And so we have ourselves a bit of a passive game right now. As Clem looks to survive basically to Liberators. If you can get to 8 Liberators with +2 and Lib range, you can start moving out on the map. This map doesn't really have a super great attack path for the Terran. In fact, the most tempting attack path might be something like the third to the corner base. This is a corner base for MaxPax, so if you gave it up, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But usually, you know, when you think of ideal stuff for Terran, it's expanding and then attacking into maybe this base, and that could work. From there to there, imagine the Liberators. But even then, there's still all these site blockers that cause some issues, I'm sure, and then a lot of open space trying to get surrounds and try and get stalkers in great angles. We're not Liberators yet, but we are pushing. 2 Colossus falling so far, 2 still alive, 3rd one also going to fall. Last tank dies too, and the last Colossus, MaxPax, knowing that engagement was never going to go super well for him, does take the engagement, relying on the remaxing behind this as he is up to 16 gateways, triple robo as well. All the upgrades finishing up too. Clem also aware of that, knows he didn't win that in such a slam dunk maneuver that he could just stim to win. Doesn't even try to continue on. Doesn't even chase down those Immortals and Stalkers. Just backs away and says, all right, fair enough. And again, I would say ideally waiting for a higher Liberator count. Is this live? Your mom's live. Got him. I hope your mom is alive and healthy. So more scuffles happening in the middle of the map, but I'm not sure how much we're really going to commit to this from the Terran perspective. The Protoss doing the Zerg thing wants to take engagements that go well enough into the remax. This is also a nice concave opportunity. I mean, when Liberators come out, they want to take care of chokes, but when Bio is still the play, they want to take, you know, the concaves. The Liberators are making their way out, and it would be so great if MaxPax would just lose a battle. Oh my god, he's not going to lose this battle. The Zealots coming in on both sides. Liberators late to sieging up here, not even pointed at those Zealots. Clem does manage to just barely squeeze his way out of the surround, and with the Planetary to fall back to, that'll be just enough. But I was trying to say, it would be so lovely if Clem would win a battle here and then have Liberators siege up here. That is absolutely not what happened. But MaxPax seems to make sure it never happens. The Zealots weren't going to go into the Planetary, but they know there's an orbital. It's a little bit of a more susceptible expansion that could go down. Some SCVs falling currently, but not a lot as of yet. Raven even throwing on some auto turrets. Fairly effective versus Zealots, really. Warp Prism warping in. Goddamn, so many units right there. And that is a bio, that is a decent amount of bio left over. SCVs could be pulled into the fray. Liberators still involved as well, helping out a tremendous amount. 3-3 versus 3-2, also helping a good deal. Vikings on the ground, trying everything they can to hold on here. And it looks like Clem is going to be able to hold, only losing 13 SCVs while having plenty of extra command centers. MaxPax not done. See, he thinks there's an opportunity, and there just might be. He just needs one more wave, man. One more wave. One more wave of Zealots. One more wave will do it. One more wave. One more wave, man. That'll solve all our problems. One more wave of Zealots. It actually might solve all of his problems. The Bio not bothering to micro out, does get fully surrounded, but Liberator is still in the skies, dealing a lot of damage. Stalkers can't take them out quick enough. Clem still on a good supply, and one more wave of Zealots will not do it. Neither will one more lane on the highway, guys. That does not solve all the traffic problems. Clem holds, again, only losing 19 SCVs in the grand context of things. That is 5 bases, 8 command centers, building SCVs while they were dying. Barely even felt it. Why is he building ghosts? Ghosts are good. What? You're like the first person who's ever asked that question. No, but seriously, I mean, ghosts are expensive. They might not be the thing you want in those smaller scenarios, but you definitely want them. I mean, EMP on all those zealots is so worth it. You don't want them to be your only army, but you definitely want them a part of your army. 6 more ghosts should probably be it, though. I mean, I think 15 ghosts is pretty good. maybe then you stop. But they're only 2 supply now. They're only 2 supply. Do you know about EMP? Oh, yeah, EMP's great. Even after all of its nerfs. And this was a very Zealot-based army, because MaxPax actually ran out of gas at some point. I'm trying to run in once again, but this time SimCity is even on Clem's side, so this is just not working out at all. Zealots, though, also trying to hit that planetary alongside DTs with Missile Turret's Liberator Planetary. Not quite with all of its upgrades, but getting there. Gonna force a recall, actually, which is worth it. You know, sometimes in these later game scenarios, when the Protoss is on 5, 6, 7, 8 bases, and one of those is a gold, you know, who cares, right? Zealot, CTs, just like spread them like it's candy, but actually, 7,000, almost 8,000 resource difference. Recall on 800 minerals, that's pretty good. And you're not using the energy for much else as well. All right. Maybe you do need a recall in 60 seconds, but hopefully not. 8 Liberators are out, by the way. +2 ship weapons and lib range. This is the incredibly scary army that the Terrans are looking to get to when they play defensive. MaxPax can't break it if it's a sieged, but maybe he can break it when it's unsieged. That's a maybe. That's why I said maybe. That didn't work out. Stalkers and Colossus a bit alone against a decent number of Marauders. And the Colossus even buddying up to Marauders, not the situation you want. Zealots still trying to find Clem a little under-defended in one location or another. So far unsuccessful. Liberators sieging up means that the Zealots not going to be able to be the thing that tips the scale here. No, that's too many Liberators. And you can see, if you watch a lot of TvP, hopefully you can kind of see how easy it is to micro Liberators now, which is really quite a decent buff to them. It makes them far easier to use and siege up in that type of situation from here to here very, very easily, very quickly. War Prism to get into the main base. Zealots are going after the fusion core. It looks like the War Prism was cleared up, but we need more units up there. Zealots attack into the 3rd base. That was the 4th, excuse me. Planetary is still around to help, and this is simply not breaking the Terran yet. You know, it's never the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th wave, I guess, in this scenario. But we are running out of waves. MaxPax running out of gas as well. He's reestablishing the gold that was denied him a couple minutes ago, but really needs the gas. Mass Zealots is not always going to do the trick, although it is the kind of thing that you're hoping does, basically. I mean, as much as it is weird to see again, like 8 base Protoss with so little gas, and that is worrying, he's not making any attempt to transition. It would not go well for him, so I think that is spot on. His best bet is that enough Zealots really do the trick. Finally finding a planetary, so that's better than they've done in the last couple of minutes. 24 SCVs do go down as well, but Clem is still on 5 bases and has extra command centers to replace. That's command center that went down. Picking over some more rocks is also a good idea. Clem lost 25 SCVs, not replacing them this time around. Might not need to. He does have mules after all. And MaxPax finds a successful Zealot attack, but just one of many, many, many attempts. I'm not sure that's good enough. It did not bridge the resource gap. 11,000 resource difference now, so it definitely didn't bridge it. MaxPax is retaking all the bases that he can, but we're getting into the 20-minute mark here. And at that point, you do start to ask yourself, how many more Zealot swarms do I have in me? The Zealots are trying to either find such chaotic damage by getting into the main, getting on top of the planetaries, getting into the natural, getting to the third, that they win the game that way, or they're trying to find one hell of a surround where the Liberators are preoccupied elsewhere, which they have also not been able to find. Liberator counts, I was going to say, I figured there was enough of them. There are. They're just spread around. So 11, but only 5 or so on the front lines. Good enough to kill a Nexus. Slow and steady wins the race here for Clem, is what it's looking like. Link forward, grab a Marauder, grab a Medivac. But can he grab much more? It's such a little... It's a very weird little place. There are so many sight blockers, but obviously we have Air for Clem, and we have Colossus for MaxPax. But it's very odd to move into this brush. And now this is what you want as a Terran player. Oh, yeah. Yep, Liberator sieging up, great. Vikings killing Colossus, great. Bio still in plentiful number, great. But then all of it together, moving in one fluid motion down the midway point, killing the base, then hitting the arteries, that is the 4th base. The robo goes down. Suddenly the gateways are in trouble. The technology is being camped. That's what you want. And that's what MaxPax has to acknowledge is about to happen. You can't really defend against it. So what do? You go for a base trade. It's the only option available. Gonna be able to get this orbital. That orbital is also a goner. The natural could also be in trouble, as well as the main. Go for the arteries. Go for the most important thing first. That's what MaxPax got to do. Clem actually spending some time chasing around Army and now going after peripheral bases. Might not actually be the move, but it was also threatening collapsing in on MaxPax's Army. Kind of doing so, but only with a portion of his. That's so many Zealots, good lord. 3-3-2 on those Zealots, by the way. That does not seem like enough bio, but now they're going back to a planetary, and now they're going back to a couple Liberators, and that is something Zealots cannot handle. So neither player making the move into each other's main bases, getting perhaps trapped there as well. There's a pseudo base trade. Yes, they traded bases, but they did not kill each other's production. Clem is down to just 1 mining base, by the way. MaxPax on about 2. Can he win an army fight, though? Is the resource loss getting worse and worse? Now 15,000 difference. Might come down to this. Can MaxPax take one hell of an engagement, or will Liberators rain from above? I think they're raining. I think they're doing their thing. All Liberators coming together, 14 of them in play at this point. And MaxPax down to just 126 army. Or supply overall, excuse me. He was at half of the army when I said that. Now still down 80 army. Clem did not replace the SCVs in the last 4 minutes of this game, so he has just replaced it with army. He has so much army. So much. The army is getting a little spread around here, but not in a way that favors MaxPax. The main army still looking good for Clem. Chases down one last Colossus. MaxPax realizing he's running out of options. Planetary forming to take care of the Nexus in the corner. Clem has got this game. MaxPax did what he could. Try and make it chaotic. But it wasn't chaotic enough. GG's. Game 1 goes to the patient defensive Terran. In the bottom left, up 1. I did not change. There we go. In the bottom left, up 1. He is Team Liquid's Clem. And in the top right, we do have MaxPax on Throne of the Blank. Yeah, how do you deal with that? That's a good question. See, the problem, I think, that could occur with the patch is that they might have made it harder for the Protoss to win in the mid-game. I don't know, because I also feel like we were, you know, when the patch happened, we were also seeing Terran players try different things, obviously, as they were not winning very often. And one of the things that they were starting to do more often was just play super defensive, like never move out past a Widowmine drop. So I don't know if that is the solution or the patch helped that, and now it's the solution. I don't know. But anyway, so now that Protoss aren't winning in the mid game as much, they're getting forced into this late game and these late game scenarios. Terrans are doing better. But I think they were already better in those scenarios, even when they were losing a lot of the TvPs. Hopefully that made sense. Before the patch, Terrans were losing tons of TvPs. It was a bit of a sad matchup. They were turning to first SED pool, then that stopped working, and then they were, floundering. And then we saw some of them start to turtle more often, and that seemed to be doing okay. But if they turtled correctly, if they managed to survive and actually get to, again, let's say 6-8 Liberators with range +2, the chances of them winning did feel much higher. They had a better army to the Protoss. The Protoss had the Zerg situation, which was that they had more economy, they could overwhelm, they could take multiple bad fights, and they might still win. Now with the patch, again, we have Terrans turtling, defensive play, getting to Liberators, looking better than the Protoss army, but now perhaps even better, because Ghosts are only 2 supply. So now they have more room. Ghosts still take more damage from the Colossus, for instance, but I didn't think that would be a big part of this matchup anyway, just because there's so many layers to the engagements by the time Ghosts appear. But at the end of the day, you give them very large armies, as they also tend to be the ones to give up SCVs and go into a bigger army. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like what you did is maybe you just made mid-game a little bit harder for the Protoss, as this Adept is going to get chased down here. Nice opener from Clem, keeping the Reaper at home, going into the 2 Marines, then adding on the Reactor. Really taking advantage of that. The Adept opener that MaxPax likes. Anyway, yeah, so the mid-game might not be as good for Protoss, hard to say, but the late game was always a bit troublesome for them, actually. And now I think it's even more troublesome. So, in my eyes, what might have happened was that you made it a bit more difficult for Protoss in the mid-game, which is what people wanted, but then you still buffed the part of PvT where Terrans were actually doing okay. Right? So I'm a little scared of that. And whether or not Protoss is buffed in the mid-game or not, it's so hard to determine truly. Sorry, whether Protoss was nerfed in the mid-game, excuse me. As we're watching, once again, Clem have a pretty good opener in this game. Which last game he had a good opener, too. Does lose 2 SCVs, so there's a little more tit for tat this time around. Second barracks already on the way. Double Wood Mine drop. Just follow that for a while as MaxPax once again goes into... Oh no, 2 gateways this time. He wasn't able to do his 3 gate anyway, so I mean, if you're going to take your Nexus and Macro, might as well go for 2 gateways. So yeah, following this Wood Mine drop. Because someone asked, what do you do against that late game scenario of last game? Tempests aren't really the answer. The transition over into Stargates is so difficult for the Protoss to do. And even if they manage to get to a decent Stargate position, that late game Terran army still actually feels better. First Wood Mine was very unsuccessful. Second Wood Mine, very unsuccessful. This time, maybe the medevac will live, though. Second barracks done, third barracks on the way. Clem has gotten all the scouting to tell him that it was a 2-gate expand, so he does not have to worry at all about stalker aggression, but it's MaxPax, still, occasionally throw out a Warp Prism and still harass you, so he's still positioning his units in very secure ways. And just playing super, super close to the vest here. And if he's going to be playing defensively anyway, that makes a lot of sense. Last game, a handful of Stalkers managed to cancel Stim once. This time around, not going to happen. It's still losing, not just 1, but 2 Stalkers this time. Plus, the Raven actually does something this time. Kills 2 probes. Does feel like Clem is getting the better early game twice now. And that's not always a guarantee between these two. They're very micro-focused in the early game, and sometimes it goes Clem's way, sometimes it goes MaxPax's. MaxPax does see the incoming army, an observer trailing the tank as well, and that is scary. I don't know if Clem really does this move out every time that he does this build, but with the way the situation's heading, the way that it's been going for him, might feel confident enough to actually do the push out. Medevac thought maybe it could escape. It was wrong about that. It does go down, and Clem says, you know what? Not even going to bother. And that seems, again, to be so much of what Terrans have learned over the past couple of months is just, even when it seems like it might be a good opportunity to attack the Protoss, don't. And then just, you know, really play very defensive. It's tough. It's a tough game to balance. Tough game to balance. And again, I think what also really adds to this difficulty, what seems to be very repetitive games, is that we just don't have a lot of players playing. You know, I think that there's probably more dynamic games in the lower leagues, or maybe like farther back in the bracket, between people that don't play against each other, you know, every freaking time, or players who don't play the most optimal way of playing every single time. But between these two, there's a bit of an ebb and flow. This is a Storm opener from MaxPax, so that is certainly a bit different. Scan does not reveal those high Templars, and MaxPax makes sure that it does not. Clem's trying to take this third CC as he sends 2 medevacs over. MaxPax has not picked up on the lack of medevacs as of yet. Storm is going to hit twice, kill a good number of Marines, but here comes that big old drop into the main base. Recall is going to have to be used. Recall, good enough. Good enough. Get the fuck out. That's still pretty good. War Prism in the main, however, is something that Clem was a little less than prepared for. And he is a quick reaction while still dealing damage on this side of the map. Grabs a couple of stalkers, then skedaddles. No. Oh, Marauder. The cat is turtling. Yeah, the cat's a real Terran player right now. So Clem does manage to get his third about as swiftly as he wanted, which I think MaxPax is really... you know, his entire plan wasn't hinged on delaying the third CC, but I feel like you want to delay it a little bit more and have a little bit more of a scuffle. You open up more tank kill opportunities, too, in an ideal situation, because the Storm scare the bio and then the Zealots come in. And that didn't happen. That recall was really quite important. That Clem was able to just get that and then say, hey, nanny, boo-boo, and run away. That was a kill. That's so fresh that Clem did not react in time, having no idea the army was coming in from that direction, so that is painful. It's already worth the push in there, so MaxPax can be a bit happy about that. Double upgrades for the Protoss while he's on 4 bases, going on to 5, adding on the robotics bay, and possibly a second robo very soon. Getting to the same destination, different journey of the last game. And there was a lot of what-ifs in this game, I would say, but that recall really just took them all out of the equation. Now it's like, okay, Storm charged attack, not doing anything different. Let's just move on. Not move away completely, because as soon as you do that, that just makes it too passive of a game. But MaxPax, I don't think, is going to find an avenue of attack here. Not with tanks sieged up, bio pre-spread, EMPs available. And that 4th CC this time is a bit healthier, so it's not going to go down instantly. Yeah, I talk in very general, broad terms about the way that these games go, and a lot of the time they go the way that I'm talking about, but just to be clear, it is very possible that MaxPax breaks Clem this game. That he gets a Warp Prism into the main, and an attack down the natural, and an attack on a 3rd, and Clem dies. So not quite drunk on the floor casting PVTs yet. But I feel like we're getting there, especially if it's between these two. I could make a pretty good drunk cast out of this one. A guessing game cast out of this one. Factory's going to scout any Warp Prism attempt, but it's not a Warp Prism, it's just a good old run-by. So very solid defense there. Marines against the Zealots, tanks against whatever else is behind those Zealots. Beautiful defense. Beautiful Storm. Beautiful. Kills with a couple of Marines, handful of SUVs. More importantly, big ol' attack on the left is being defended. Planetary's forming, tanks are getting closer, Viking numbers getting higher. Upgrades do favor MaxPax right now, but it's just such a difficult avenue of attack when the Terran's prepared like this. It's so difficult. And they have played hundreds of games in the last year where the meta has been roughly this. That, you know, as much as I really do applaud the beautiful setup here, the Marines covering the tanks of, you know, missile turret and a Viking, it's based off of so many freaking games where the flow of the game is somewhat predictable. Where it's like, you know, well, the Protoss has to do this. I do think MaxPax going to a Stargate makes a lot of sense, because his last attempt at just trying to bully the Terran with ground units did not work. But, to what we were talking about earlier, Stargate's very difficult for Protoss to win with. It's not impossible. Of course it's not. But I think we're still going into the later the game goes, the more that the Terran army really is better. And I think that is pretty factual that it is better if it's correctly controlled. It's more about what else happens in the game. Can the Protoss get run-bys, kill the economy, take decent fights, not horrendous fights, and, you know, get storms and whatnot. Which storms are coming down here, but only on a portion of the army. The rest of it's still healthy. An attack coming for this choke, not working out either. Seems like Colossus went head first and nearly died. MaxPax gonna really just push it. He's gonna find the last tank covering that third. Lose all of his Colossus, however, and then much of his ground army. As the bio stays very healthy. We can see it in the supply right now. MaxPax, he can do these things, but check the resources lost every 2 or 3 minutes. Might get worse and worse for him even as he continues to expand. And honestly, 5 bases with the 5th not even saturated is already like, shouldn't it be? Like, we need to, the Protoss needs to keep up on that, for sure. Especially if they're not just trading, but also trying to make their way over into Stargates. You can't just not pressure the Terran as you move over into Stargates, because they'll read that, they'll scan, they'll go, okay, I'm gonna kill you now, but you need a lot of resources for this. This army of the Terran looking quite good. Just a brick wall that MaxPax trying to run his head into, as 2-2 is also done, so there was even upgrades that time. 5th base on the way for Clem. He's going to be able to protect that. There's really not a lot here. There is so little here, although the storms are quite good. War Prism in the main was that slight distraction, I think, that caused those storms to be quite good. Liberator range will finish, but Caduceus Reactor, well, it could have been targeted. The Zealots go on to greener pastures, try and go after the engineering bay. Vikings land to take care of it. MaxPax also still fighting the army on the other side. Looks like he got a couple of good storms that are opening up this this base to possibly having to be lifted as Colossus rally in at the perfect time, too, because the Vikings were absolutely distracted. That was a lot going on at once. Still, Clem holds on. Saved both very important buildings. Saved the 5th base from even having to lift. And now he's got his army back, collected together, ready to tango with whatever comes in. That looked promising for a second, but it actually wasn't. I wonder, hindsight 2020, but you know, if maybe this was a game where he was still affording 20 Zealot warp-ins at a time, would that have been good enough? Hard to say, but his reinforcements can't be coming in that much faster. They can't be coming in as fast as last game. Not with all of his dedication to Stargates, right? And he's building templates at this point, so he's got to leave supply for that too. Yeah, that wasn't quite enough. Catches the Warp Prism before it causes problems, and then again, be able to focus entirely on the front. Liberators are popping out too, replacing those tanks that were taken down earlier, as far as the sieging of some of these chokes and defending a lot of these bases, so that's a lot easier for the Terran to focus entirely on the fight, which we see happening here. Nice concave from the Terran. Storms are hitting a decent amount, but not quite killing those units. And the last Colossus will fall. The Zealots are thinned out, and the Stalkers do not stand a chance. Archon's going to be taken down as well. Will Clem continue? It looks like the answer is no. He's actually scanning, perhaps wondering what the true situation is. He sees a just now finishing base. No base here. I don't know what he's really reading into that, but aside from where to attack, and I guess he just decided to attack this base. Wouldn't be surprised to see some scans over in the top left. Just wondering if maybe MaxPax is rich? Did he take more bases than anticipated? First reveal in the Tempest, by the way. Don't think Clem had any scans into the main. I think he heard it. He's now confirming it. What happened to simultaneous bio drops and Protoss being stuck on low base count? Well, Perfidy, that's a lot what we talk about lately. That has been the swap of the last year or so, is that the Protoss have become more of the mid-game players, where they aggress as well as expand, and the Terran players are far more of the defensive, get to the perfect army. It's definitely swapped. That is a lot of Liberators. The storms blanket all of the sky, dealing a lot of damage, but it seems like Clem does not care, just pushes through it anyway. Tons of Marauders on the ground, is ripping through all that, and that is it. Clem with a... We are in the grand finals now, and they are familiar faces. In the top left of Taito Citadel, it is Clem. And in the bottom right, we do have Storm Gaming's MaxPax. Also been on Storm for a while. School at Storm has been in StarCraft 2 for a decade at this point, at least. So last time they played, Clem was pretty convincing. 2-0. Had strong early games, both times. Then rolled it into a nicer defensive position of the third than if you had tried to do some type of razzle-dazzle push-out with the bio like a loser. Only Terrans who want to lose push out in the mid-game right now. And that just turned into a really good late game. But that is what I expect from this best of 5 and possible extra best of 3. Much of the same. Clem might get bored of that too, though, to be fair, and he might actually try and do something else. But I would honestly bet money that if he does something else, it's because he was bored. Not because he thought it was necessarily the best thing to do. Unless MaxPax starts winning in those late game scenarios, and then, well, you do have to change things up at that point. But until MaxPax wins one of those late games, yeah, I don't think you got to change it. We have fountains. Talking about cats earlier on, and how there's a sink fountain that you can buy. The problem is that cats are very fickle creatures. We have 4 different cat fountains of 3 different types, and this cat that's bothering me only wants sink tap water. Nothing else is good enough. So that's Dimitri. So yeah, like I said, the last time they played, Clem was getting some really good early games. He was catching MaxPax's adepts and killing them before they did any damage. He was getting more probes than you would expect, not like a drastic amount, but 2 instead of the usual 0. And he was even causing MaxPax a couple of hiccups in his macro. A supply block that doesn't usually happen for MaxPax would happen for 2 seconds. So it does seem like Clem is on points, knows exactly what he wants to do. MaxPax a little less so, just a such a tiny little bit less on point, and not really sure what he wants to do. Reaper, the third Reaper, I guess. I made 3 Reapers in total. Okay. So the second Reaper died with the Adepts, but that's okay, I would say. The Hellion lives and will be repaired, and that threatens the possibility of a Reaper Hellion attack, which, I'm not really concerned about MaxPax taking a lot of damage from, but to me, this isn't about the early game. Even though it's nice that the early game has been going well for Clem, it isn't, I think, what makes or breaks the PvT as a whole. He is really changing it up now, though. I mean, first 3 Reaper, 2 Hellion, then into Banshees. Not just the old standard Widowmine drop into 3 Barracks, 3rd CC. And maybe with the Banshees, he could add even a little bit more spice to it and actually move out with some tanks. Try and get some damage done on MaxPax's 3rd. But he doesn't have to. MaxPax did a 3-gate in the first game they played, then a 2-gate in the second game this time around for this new best of 5 they're playing. He's going to 3-gate with the Warp Prism. He'd not shown this in the last series they played. Now he's bringing it back out. Clem was very well prepared against it if it did happen. I think he'll still be somewhat prepared against it this time around. And then the question is more so, is MaxPax prepared for the Banshees? 5 probes go down to this, and that's pretty darn good. Gets a full scout as well to see that it is a 3-gate. Doesn't quite see the War Prism, but kind of assume with MaxPax that he will be attacking you. And if he doesn't, then that's fine too. Second bunker's here. Tank's getting into a better position. Clem doing everything he needs to do to set up the defense, while also looking to deal a lot of damage with this cloaked Banshee. MaxPax did not scout the cloak at all, and that cloaked Banshee right into the main base. No observer. Where is the observer? Wait, is it? Wait, there it is. Well, still, no observer right off the bat. Which means 5 probes will go down. He is 6 if he's going to just sack it. Yeah, I just decided to sack it. The best case scenario after not moving. And 6 for 1 cloaked Banshee, I think, is acceptable. I think that's the number that you're just like, okay. Not great, not bad. Second Banshee probably won't get much more done on the economy, but still useful in other ways. Looks like that maybe a depth shade in. Whoo! It almost died. Woo, Lord baby Jesus. That Warp Prism nearly died. It is alive. It's fine. It's good. More importantly, though, I would say Clem just holds without anything going wrong. The Stalkers didn't even get a chance to go after the SCVs, and that's really what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to grab 2 SCVs. You know, the tank covers most of it, but then those sneaky deaky Stalkers get back here or something. Grab a couple. Didn't happen. And MaxPax actually did make a Warp Prism and 3 Gateways and another Warp In of Stalkers before grabbing... Well, maybe not another Warp In. I'm actually not sure about that. But he's still invested into things that have done nothing so far. Not getting the fastest 3rd Nexus. Shouldn't feel that great for the Protoss player. It would it's not game ending. I would say a lot of times that happens between these two, and then MaxPax still finds a way to win around that 3CC attack. But Clem, that was when Clem was moving out in some way. Was actually trading out bio against MaxPax in some way before taking the 3rd, or as he was taking the 3rd. And now it just really seems like Terran players have learned, do not give any units away, and you will have enough to defend the 3rd. And if you have enough to defend the 3rd, then you have enough to basically turtle into 4 bases. It used to be that you had to attack, and then maybe you had to defend initially, but then you still went into an attack. And now it just seems much less likely. MaxPax is actually, he's currently dealing with a Banshee, but he is actually going to be attacked. Thing is, Clem might just be finding an avenue here, realizing the Stalkers aren't tracking him and the Observer isn't tracking him because they were tracking the Banshee. That is what makes it such a big opening, that he is actually going to try and move out. In one of the games, he kind of moved out and decided, nah, I'm not going to bother. This time around, very much moving out, accidentally getting building armor. I assume it's an accident, but this is a good move out. Getting those tanks up to the Nexus already is fantastic. Colossus also in a little bit of trouble, but Warp Prism, thank goodness, is alive to Micro. But the Nexus, can't say it's going to survive. Another stim, focus fire, it's a goner. MaxPax completely unaware of the army move out was the problem right there. The Stalkers chased the Banshee so hard, and Clem took full advantage of that. You mix the chase of the Banshee with Clem's refusal to move out in their previous best of, and I think that's why that happens. I'm sure there's a lot of other games where MaxPax does go after the Banshee, but is very well aware that the attack could be coming in. It's just that Clem also had refused to move out the last time they played. So that was a bit of a shock. And that shock just cost him a 3rd Nexus, which means that Clem might have an actual opportunity to win the game before a bunch of Liberators. We'll see if he chooses to go for it. I would also not be surprised if he's like, aha, an even easier game. But I'm still going to wait till 16 minutes and slow push across the map with Liberators. Because a lot of Protoss players have gotten very good at recovering from certain positions. Not quite this one, but similar, I suppose. Losing probes I shouldn't have, maybe losing a Nexus. And MaxPax is one of the best at recovering from these positions. Because as soon as the Terran starts to move out to take advantage, and they're like, well, I'm going to win the game, right? Let's sim the win. That's when Zealots run in, that's when War Prism runs in, that's when things get chaotic. And instead of just allowing that chaos to happen, Terran players and Clem are just like, I'm just not gonna move out. Not until I got planetaries and liberators and things to protect me and missile rings and everything I need. Quick handling of the War Prism, which was very injured from earlier anyway. Neosteel frames was actually researched. I don't know what to tell you guys. That was on purpose? What? I had never seen that macro mistake, which is why I was already kind of believing it was real. But I still can't believe it. You know, there are mistakes you see all the time, like Beyond not getting his weapon upgrade. Something to do with his hotkeys and his setup. What else? What else do you see? Obviously, like missing an upgrade, it happens all the time. But Neosteel frames, like you just don't, like that's a hotkey you barely ever reach. Anyway, this does seem like a totally easy win for Clem, which it should be after killing a Nexus, and it is. GG's. Clem does push out and does win. Takes out the Warp Prism. That's kind of a free, that's a green light to move across the map, and he took it. So, a surprisingly easy game for Clem to start off this series. Accidental Storm for Zerg, that's another good one, yeah. Things that are explained by maybe the hotkeys being close together, or resources not quite being in your pocket when you think they are. That upgrade, not explained by either one, because it's N, isn't it? You just complain, grab my upgrades. EA, okay. And then, yeah, no, it's nowhere close. It's nowhere close to that upgrade. Not that I get that upgrade very often. New strat. New strat coming in. I don't know. New strat, a flex. Who knows? It gives you building armor. It gives you two things now, right? Oh, it's been so long since that upgrade got changed. All right. Continuing on to the best of 5. Down 1, it is MaxPax in the bottom right of 10,000 feet. In the top left, it is Liquid Clem. There used to be 3 upgrades on the engineering bay, right? Increased bunker capacity. That's what got mixed in. So it's building armor. Was Neosteel frames the bunker? I forget all the names, the official names of this. And then they got merged at some point. And then high sec auto tracking is still separate. Enjoying your analysis? Well, I'm glad, because I feel like my analysis is kind of depressing. Neosteel frames. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, if we do take that for truth, that he intentionally got building armor, trying to think of why. You know, especially so quickly. That's just insanely quick. It would help the bunker he built, so maybe it would help against run-bys, which he was more concerned about around that time. And then, yeah, bunker having extra capacity, ditto, just helps out against run-bys. I feel like it's specifically an anti-run-by harassment thing. Not sure it's going to be meta. Not sure about that one. But we'll see if he does it again in an advantageous position. Because he might have gotten it because he was ahead, but not as a flex. But more as a, I know the only thing you can do right now is try and out-harass me. Try and throw zealots and hope something sticks. Build and draw planetary fortress. That's so far away, though. That would, you know, I mean, you could still get 1-1, I think, before you would get that. So I don't know. Anyway, it could have been because he was ahead and he knew the only way that MaxPax was going to come back was run bys. Could have been a mistake technically too. It's just such an unlikely thing to make a mistake of, and well, we'll have to ask him later on if he continues doing it. Stargate is going to be the play for MaxPax, so he is changing up his opener. But once again, Clem going for this Reaper 2 Marine, then Reactor opener. Wants to catch the Adept. Almost does. Almost. I don't think we've seen this map as of yet, by the way. So, yeah, nothing. You get the minerals that can be mined out to give yourself a triangle third. Or you can go horizontal. A fourth, that is. Ooh! We have Zerg rocks. Yay! With custom hotkeys, who knows if it's far or not? I mean, that's true. I assume that Clem has some custom hotkeys. Most pros do. I have never seen him make that mistake before, though, which is, you know, so maybe he's trying a new hotkey setup. That could be the case. But, yeah, I can't imagine what you were changing on your hotkey setup to make it so that that's an easier grab. E and A is already pretty easy for the upgrades, but he could have changed. Like, I don't know what's setup. It is a Phoenix opener, so we are going to go Phoenix Colossus with a Robo now on the way. Something that Clem wants to note. I mean, first he would have been surprised by an Oracle opener, but that hardly ever does enough damage to, I think, really be worth it. The Phoenix, well, you see him, you lose the unit. What you really wanted to see was whether or not they're going to go in a storm. Certainly with 2 gases taken this quickly, it's not going to be some type of mass charge lot strategy. But it's, I think it's, yeah, it could still be storm. Do you see the Robo as well? No, because that's not natural. But it's most likely going to be Colossus. If MaxPax does occasionally play Phoenix openers, it does go into Colossus. It's been a while since I've seen Phoenix charge. And you would go charge before storm, so yeah, I think these gases are already a reveal. They're too quick. So Colossus it is. He's already building a good number of Vikings. A good number of Vikings. Against a Phoenix opener, sometimes you do see 2 Phoenix and 2 Cyclones. Sure. But you hardly see the double Viking production. I do feel like Clem did this previously, though. This is maybe not something that new. Like, maybe he did it 2 or 3 weeks ago kind of situation. 1 Phoenix already going down. So just a little extra firepower. With good range, too. I mean, that's one of the best things about Vikings, is that they do have good range. Where are the feet? I went 10,000 streamer feet. I think it's a play on 10,000 leagues under the sea. I assume. Right? That's what it is? 10,000 leagues? 1,000 leagues? Which one is it? Yeah, and Vikings are a tiny bit cheaper, of course. Yep, can't forget that. But yeah, with that in consideration, yeah, it must feel much better to do this. And you're getting this, and you're still going to be able to get as many medevacs as you need when the bio really starts to play a part. It's just that you have Vikings that don't have to be exactly in position because their range is good to ward away the Phoenix. And then obviously they'll help against the Colossus. You just get them first, and then you get medevacs. Generally, I would say, though, like, it's not one or the other at this point. It's more that you're using your reactor for something else at this point, is usually the deal. That you would want more Marines than you would want the extra Viking with every round. 4 cities do go down because the Vikings were just that out of position. You can see Clem didn't go for missile turrets this time, which he has done in other anti-Phoenix games. Because he probably is like, well, no, I have so many Vikings. I really don't want to do this. 20,000 under the sea. Excuse me. I still think it's some type of play on that, but I don't actually know. Thing is, Colossus into now 4 bases. Single upgrade so far. 3rd CC gets taken in that forward position, which is one I wasn't expecting. Lovely sensor tower placement. Doesn't quite see the observer. By the way, it's been a couple of weeks. Is everyone over the observer change at this point? Do we still have people pretending to be mortally wounded by the observer change? Or have they finally given up on their crusade? I hope they have, for their own sanity. I know that a lot of people have reported facing Protoss who have now suddenly gotten 4 or 5 observers in their army every time they attack. Wonder what they're pressing. It seems like a game where Clem is not going to move out. With the Viking numbers already in good counts, you just didn't have to worry as much about the fight. I keep wanting to say Viking with Phoenix and Phoenix with Viking, and it's never really happened to me before, so I don't know what that's about. But you have a good number of Vikings. You're not as scared of the actual Phoenix Colossus push, which can try and take advantage of someone who has not built enough Vikings. Which would usually be the case, because again, you'd usually emphasize add-ons, you'd usually emphasize medevacs, and then the Vikings. And the Phoenix would be the damage soakers that would keep the Colossus alive to then burn up all the bio that you had built. But yeah, with the way that Clem set up here and them being a little bit cheaper, I don't think there was ever an opportunity. Not that MaxPax tried to go for it, but I don't think he could have. Was the observer change? In surveillance mode, they're now revealed, which means you just don't use surveillance mode if they're offensively placed. More barracks on the way, more command centers, second starport, Ghost being built. You're getting yourselves into a later stage of the game. MaxPax does go up to 5 bases, lickety split, possibly reading into the pace that Clem is going to set, really. Which, I mean, it feels kind of weird saying that, because it's like the pace he's setting is doing nothing. But it's the truth. It's, you know, if he was moving out, then MaxPax is preparing for, you know, a gotcha move, trying to kill the bio while it's not in prime position. But if he's just going to sit back, then take bases, and yeah, attack, I mean, this, yeah, totally makes sense, but you're not looking for nearly as many engagements. 5th base might be a little rushed. Tank's gonna get picked up by the Phoenix. Not providing a lot of cover there, but that's still a lot of bio on the ground. Plenty of Vikings in the sky. SCVs do go down, but we're about to be on 4 bases. I said 5th. I'm at 4th. And that's the most important thing. Although if he loses the 4th, that would be quite the blow. MaxPax finding a good angle of attack before the tanks are ready to help defend against this. And just frankly, this is more of a choke that you're being pushed through to get to this 4th base than some of the other maps these two have been playing on. So that is creating some problems. Looked like there's a lot of units that were maybe covering against a Warp Prism or something. Now everything's combined together, and this looks like it's going to finally be put down. Yeah, Warp Prism did go into the main base. So that's also part of the reason he was temporarily struggling. No! Well, AI and a new map. What are you going to do? Which league would you be able to reach by playing a lot with F2? Grandmaster. There's plenty of Grandmasters who use F2 way too much. F2 is not that significant of a limiter, I think. Considering that Hero is notorious for using F2. Another Warp Prism gets denied as the Vikings find themselves in a good position. And that means no distraction. Command Center is killed, however. It was brand new, but the Planetary will hold against the Zealots as the bio takes a great concave. Vikings destroy the Colossus. Everything gets deleted. And that was not the fight that MaxPax actually wanted to take. Great, you killed 1 Command Center. You lost certainly more than 400 minerals worth of army. Although MaxPax is relatively rich on 6 bases now, 89 probes. I say relatively because, like, yes, that is rich, but it's just relative to the amount of damage he just took. It's like, well, are you rich enough? He does remax pretty quickly, but that's still not remaxing when you are on their side of the map. That's remaxing when they're on your side of the map, which is less than ideal. Tanks are going to get jumped upon, however, and this is going to turn into a bit of a surround. Clem just narrowly, again, avoiding being completely surrounded as the Vikings take out that last Colossus. EMPs blanket most of the Zealots. More army comes in. This will be a stand now to make as the Zealots are injured. 2-2 versus 3-1 as well. Clem doing this wonderfully so far, winning these battles back to back. And taking his 5th base while he does so, or building at the very least. 3-3 is on the way. Fusion core as well. Extra command center. Not going to back away and wait for Liberators here. He knows he's got a good position. MaxPax on the ropes, reinforcing really almost into the army with it being pushed so much. MaxPax still trying to take bases while he's under this pressure. Scouted by Clem. Will he redirect his aggression or not? Not sure. That's a lot of zealots off the left side. That is so many zealots. It's like 20 zealots. Ay, ay, ay. The natural is relatively open. I guess it's the third lead to the natural. But I think MaxPax also looking for just a big old surround. Clem scans to the left, but he doesn't scan to the top left. And here come those zealots. Going to try and go for that surround once again. EMP plus a little slip away once again. Not fully capturing the bio. As the zealots get weakened, they are now on +2 armor, however, as +3 attack was not quite done. So Clem does not want to take this fight. He is going to run away, run back to that planetary, run back to the Liberators, in the process losing a lot of his Vikings. Once again, having to stim as well, injuring his bio even further. MaxPax not going to let go if he sees an opportunity. But now we're back into a choke. We're back into a planetary. And maybe forcing that many zealots through isn't the plan. Caduceus Reactor going to finish alongside 3-3, helping with the medevac energy. More Liberators are on the way. Clem temporarily pushed back. Well, I think he is officially pushed back, but it just means he's not really going to be in supreme danger for long. A little danger, maybe. Handling the run by, whereas, getting the fourth base might have pushed him through a choke, but I am seeing the appeal of taking this as a third. One entry into the third natural and thus main. Makes you feel a lot more protected. MaxPax made sure to expand again even during that pressure, so he has another base to run his probes to, which he's currently doing at 86 probes. He's got a lot to roam around. Oof. 3-3-2 for the Terran. His Liberator count starts to grow. MaxPax just at 3-2, working on 3-3-1. SCV starting to mine out the minerals as well. They want easy access to the 5th, which will open up another attack path of Zealots. I like this map. I like it. Zerg Rocks also were on this map, weren't they? They're gone. They've been gone for a while. A couple SCVs going down and some DT harassment. Clem not quite set up in every location. Getting there, though. A lot of Zealots, again, waiting for perhaps a run-by opportunity. A lot of army went off to that left. But now it could go in for a concave. Yep, just close enough. Planetary, not quite with building armor. Don't have those accessory upgrades as of yet. Full surround as well. Zealots, not going to be able to get the kill. There's enough bio responding in time. So it ends up being, not the best use of them, maybe. Just run them around and hope that it works out. Not quite. The Liberator now being up means that some of these chokes are going to be very well protected. A Liberator here, for instance, would be quite good. Gonna take the fight. Clem gets some Liberators sieged up. Plenty of Vikings for the Colossus, which aren't really part of the battle at the beginning anyway. And a huge concave for the Terran. That is beautiful stuff. MaxPax gets demolished yet again, as so many reinforcing Zealots weren't able to protect those Colossus, weren't able to protect the Stalkers. We are down to basically just Zealots, and MaxPax is looking awfully desperate. Wants this Disruptor to get a hit or two, and he's going to lose the Nexus before it even pops out. All before ground armor level 3 was done, but I don't think it would have made a difference. That was just not the fight that MaxPax really wanted to take. 3 Disruptors on the field. Will they all get shots? No, they will not. The first one barely getting one. Probes going down. Nexus going down. And Clem tightening the noose as he runs forward, taking down another Nexus. He brings in more Liberators. He gets closer to MaxPax's main base, main reinforcement point, even his natural, full of production and technology. That Disruptor will get a shot. A very good one, but it doesn't one-shot Marauders anymore, so fuck you. Zealots getting EMP'd, once again trying to go in for the big surround, but that's a lot of bio. Still not enough, apparently. Clem does not like the looks of that surround, picks up and heads to the main. Will now take, such an abusive position against someone on mainly Zealots. Oh my god. No, the Zealots do not want to go in there. They can't even go in there. What are they even doing? What are you guys doing? Snipes going down, Zealots come in one at a time through the choke. Oh, so abusive. Oh, that's so mean. Vikings even landing to help out. Zealots being warped on top of the bio because it's better than trying to filter through this damn Sim City. Just brutal. Just kill me now kind of situation. MaxPax has lost so much supply. He's lost so many Zealots to this. And this, of course, isn't the only army. Clem has his bases. He's reinforcing. He's moving elsewhere. He's gonna take down this corner nexus. And he still is not being cleaned up in the main. GG. Oh. Ew. Ew. That was gross. Poor Protoss players. And now we could be on the last map of this series. In the top right, it is MaxPax. Bottom left of Andromeda, it is Clem. Clem seems to have a handle on MaxPax today, at least. He won against him last week-ish, something like that. Then, you know, he's actually losing against him a decent amount before that. Maybe he's still further figuring MaxPax out, but these series have been quite convincing. Clem's coming in with the late game, as well as still occasionally throwing something out in the mid game, given the right opportunities. And it's working out very well for him. And MaxPax is the one that looks a little bit lost. So a real flip from scenario just a couple of weeks ago where it looked like Protoss, MaxPax, leading the charge for Protoss, looked super confident. Just made the Terran dance to their songs and expanded like hell while being aggressive. Tearing the Terran from limb. And now it's, well, it's not really the Terran tearing up the Protoss so much. It is just the Terran being very patient, waiting for the right time to strike, and then choosing particularly abusive positions to do so. Cat. But MaxPax does not seem to have a situation in which he's really got a true handle on the Terran. The most promising one of the last few games has been the attack on the 4th in that last game. And I think that was a lot to do with the way the map was designed. But MaxPax did find an angle in which Clem had to push through a choke into Colossus. And that looked promising. But it still wasn't quite enough. MaxPax isn't getting the scary big army on the front with the Warp Prism in the main and the Zealots at the third. He's trying. Every time we catch the harassment, it's always the tail end of the harassment. It's always as the Warp Prism is dying or as the Zealots are being caught out by a just right amount of units from the Terran. 1-1-1, the high ground command center. Clem not taking any chances. Playing very safe. And this is a shorter map like I suspect. Then that makes some sense. Adepts getting over to the side of the map even just 1 second sooner can be a big difference maker. It can be the difference of the bunker being done or not. It can be the difference of the third unit, you know, Marine or... Well, it's third unit, it's mostly a Marine. The Marine being out or not. Of the command center being done or not, you know. So very safe on a shorter map. But then, let's go into a tank here. We're going to get an attack on the third. Reaper wants to scout out to see if it is a 3-gate or a 2-gate. It is going to be a 3-gate so far. Every so often, MaxPax throws in the 4-gate, but nope, just 3 this time around. And 3 gateways are great for also defensive purposes. Although he might get a Warp Prism and go offensive with it. Clem's building of the tank this early into a Viking as well. Definitely screaming some aggression. And if this was a fast third, I mean, then faster third. It's going to come down eventually. But still, you could go there. But he might actually get sieged up hitting the natural. And MaxPax, I don't think, is just in the right mindset to believe that is going to be the case. He's not scouting it, that's for sure. One of mine offers a little bit of protection so that you can run back. Already killing 5 probes with the drop itself is great. And then the big distraction so that MaxPax isn't walking his stalkers across going, oh shit, there's an army, is huge as well. MaxPax going to be in some trouble despite having 3 gateways. Typically a good setup against this thing. Having the tank already siege up a gateway is bad news. That's going to be down to 2 gateway. One of mine is still involved. Still active too. So Stalkers are forced to blink away from the tank. Clem just rallying units on the shorter map, too. Viking landed, adds quite a bit. On the backside, Stalkers try to blink in, but inadvertently enter a reinforcing tank. I do not believe that was on purpose. They wanted to come in for a collapse. Yeah, sometimes they do want to catch the reinforcements, but that wasn't enough Stalkers to catch them if a tank was involved. Tank, regular DPS is still quite good against a few Stalkers. Immortal pops out, but is attacking into Marines, and that ain't gonna cut it. Clem looking unbeatable. Supreme confidence at the end. Will be 3-0ing Clem, or MaxPax today. And Clem will be a victor once again for the Monday Night Weeklies. GG's.